Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we're just going to do a quick video, show you how to install Open Ssh server on a Linux machine, allowing you to remote in from a Windows machine, also with key authentication. So with that being said, let's get after it. Alright, so before you do anything, the first thing you're going to need is obviously a Linux machine. You're also going to need Windows installed. I have my Linux machine installed in a virtual machine. It's up to you what you want to do. And then you also need either PowerShell. You could use SSH through that, or you could even use Putty, another SSH client allowing you to connect to that Open Ssh server that we're about to create today. So with that being said, I got most of this stuff already installed. I'm not the end all be all. Please, if you find anything else that works better for you, go ahead with that. I'm just showing you what I did to get to what I needed. So to begin, you're going to go ahead. I already have everything installed. I'm just going to walk you through the basic steps, show you the configs I have, and explain what I did and how I got there. So first, you're going to do this command. You're going to go ahead and install the Open Ssh server. You're going to have to do that with a escalated permission. So you just go ahead and use sudo Open Ssh server. I'll just run it just to show you I have it. But that's what you would do. See, it's already running. Say it's the newest version is already installed. There you go. Now you have Open Ssh installed. So at that point, once it's installed, it should only take a few minutes. It's going to create a bunch of folders. The first folder that you want to go over and take a look at is going to be in the etc directory. So we're going to go ahead and head over that way right now under SSH. And here's going to be all the config files and stuff like that relating to the SSH server that we just downloaded. So first one that we care about is going to be the sshd underscore config file. Before we do this, actually, I need to mention two things. Let me exit out of that. So first, you want to make sure that you run a backup. Just this way, if you make any mistakes, you go ahead and revert to the backup. You can do that by just using the copy command. So just cp sshd config, and then since we're doing the same directory, we'll just go ahead and name it again, and we're just going to say sshd config to backup. Do that with sudo, obviously. Otherwise, you'll get what I just got, permission denied. And there you go. Now you can see it right here, ssh2 or sshd underscore config2.backup. Perfect. Now we got the backup. So if anything, we make any mistakes, obviously it's in a lab environment, so we're going to make mistakes. That's the whole purpose of this. So we're going to go ahead and nano that. There's a few things you want to look out for while you're in here. I did it again. We need to make sure we sudo this as well. So the first one you want to look out for is going to be port. It's going to be the default 22. I suggest you do whatever you would like that works for you. I went with 54322. The reason why I switched it away from the default is because if someone was searching for open ports, if you were to expose this to the internet, that's just one quick way for them to realize that you have SSH open on that server or that particular machine. Next, you're going to do the listen address. So it's going to be 192.168.1.10 or whatever your IP address for that machine that you were trying to SSH into, or whatever machine that you're running that server on, which is this one. And then two more lines you want to take a look at least for this purpose of this video. You're going to head down to public key authentication. I believe it's originally commented. You're going to go ahead and delete so it would look like this. You're going to go ahead and delete the comment, and you're going to change the no to a yes. This is going to allow us later to authenticate with a public key and then not use a password. And then the last one for now that we're going to care about is going to be Authorized Key File. You're going to go, I believe this is also commented, I'm not sure, I don't remember. But either way, you want to just verify that this has the right keys or the right file, which I'll explain later when I get to that point. But you're going to see .ssh, which is a hidden directory, and then the backslash authorized keys. Perfect. And then later on we'll go ahead down here and we're going to disable this. But for now we could just use it on yes. Later when we want to SSH into it, we're going to hit no. Alright, sweet. I just recorded like 5 minutes worth of a video, not realizing that this is probably a better alternative, allowing you guys to see the actual prompts and stuff that pop up. At first it was just showing you guys just this and not the windows that were popping up with it. So again, let's go ahead and cover that real quick. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead to use the Putty Client. We're going to generate some keys, allowing us to later authenticate using those keys instead of a password. So just go ahead and install that on your own. It's pretty straightforward. Just go to the website, download it, just like everything else. It'll also download 3 other applications along with the regular client. So you get the Putty Client, you get the Putty Key Generator, and then you also get another client allowing you to manage those keys. Pretty straightforward. So then once you open up the key generator, this is going to be it. 2 things you're going to want to look out for is going to be at the bottom under parameters. You're going to look for RSA, and then over here it's going to be 2048. To make it more secure, you can bump it up to 4096, I believe. We're going to leave a bunch of these settings to default just for the purpose of this lab, but just let you know so it's out there so you can go ahead and research it and learn about it yourself. Alright, so at that point you can go ahead and hit generate. It's going to have you move your mouse around to generate some randomness in the key. So here we go. Now I got 3 more things on this screen that just popped up. An important part right here, you get the public key for pasting into an Open Ssh Authorized Keys file. Knowing that this is right here will save you a lot of time. I'll explain again later. So this is the key that we're going to be using inside of our Authorized Keys file that I explained later. That was inside of the Sshd config that we edited. Alright, so we know that's there. Then we got the key fingerprint. We're not going to worry about this too much, but this is just a hash of the file, pretty much. So if you want to compare to see if anything changed, there you go. You got a key comment. You can change that to whatever you would like, and then you got a key passphrase, which is very important. But for this, we're just going to leave it blank. It's just a lab. We're just playing around, seeing what's out there. Alright, so at that point, we're going to go ahead and save the private key. That is important. Save private key. This is what wasn't showing up before. Are you sure you want to save this key without a passphrase to protect it? We're going to go ahead and hit yes. And then we're just going to save it under the .ssh directory, which opens automatically. Well, at least for me it did. And then you're going to go ahead and we'll just name this YouTube Lab. And that will save it as the right file extension. Perfect. Go ahead and save the public key. This is what was messing me up though. I was using this key, the public key, but later after I was able to read into it, like I read the actual file using the cat command on Linux, and I noticed that it was a different format than the Open SSH format, and then that's why I wasn't able to connect for the couple hours that I was playing around with this. We'll just say YouTube pub. There we go. We got our public key, we got our private key, and then we also have our key right here that we're actually going to paste into the Linux server. Alright, cool. Next thing we're going to go ahead and do is just paste this public key that we talked about earlier into the authorized key file on the Linux machine. The way I like to do it is go ahead and SSH into it via PowerShell or even Putty. One thing I would like to mention that I forgot to say earlier is that when you're making any changes to the SSHD config file, after you save those changes, you're going to want to go ahead and restart it. The reason why I say that is because when I first tried to SSH into the server using that port that we designated earlier, 54322, it was asking for this public key even though I already turned on password authentication. That's why I went ahead and I restarted it, which it's not showing right now, but I just went ahead and did system control, restart, and then SSHD server, and then we were able to get right into it. Cool. So now we're logged in. We're going to go ahead and head over to this directory. So you got to realize where we are. So we start out in this, obviously the home directory. And then from here, obviously if you hit ls to list everything in this directory, you'll notice that you don't see the SSH directory. So go ahead and run the -LA option, and then we can just see everything here. Then you see the .ssh directory, which is obviously hidden, identified by the period. SSH into that. And then at this point, I already created a backup previously for the that I was running when I was testing this out the last time. I already deleted the key that was inside authorized keys, so we know we're starting from a fresh slate. So we're going to go ahead and run nano authorized keys. Then this is where we literally just want to go over to the putty. We're going to copy and then paste. There we go. And then we're just going to hit Control X, and then we're going to save it. Now if we were to cat, we would see the important thing to remember here is that when you're in this, it's obviously not going to show it, but for whatever reason, it does need to be on one single continuous line, as you saw when we nanoed, just like that, which will happen when you paste it, so it's fine. Alright, so the next two things, only a few more things we got to do. So the next thing to do is going to go ahead, we got to change the file permissions of the directory and of the file, allowing, when we're remoting into it, allowing those accesses to happen. So all we got to do for the SSH, I'm not going to explain it all here, but we're going to go ahead and change it using the chmod command 700, and then we're just going to throw that just like that. And then I already have it done, so I'm not going to go ahead and run it again. And you can do the same thing. Make sure you're in the directory and you see the file. You can do the same thing for chmod 600, authorized keys, and that's it. Run that and you'll be good to go. Alright, and then last but not least, before we try to remote into this, so we have the key on here. So now let's go ahead and turn off password authentication. We already know we could SSH into it using a password, which is where we're at right now. So let's go ahead and edit this sshd config file, which was under that directory. Remember the port. You're going to want to remember the IP address. You got public key authentication turned on to yes. You're going to make sure that that file is, or the file name is the same as we just pasted the key into. And then you're going to go down to password authentication, and we're going to turn that on to no. Sweet. So let's go ahead and exit. We just logged out. So now we are no longer on the Linux machine. So now all we have to do is we're going to just try to SSH into it, and we're going to specify the directory. So at first, I'll just show you the basics. So obviously the SSH command, we're going to use the username, we're going to use the @ symbol, and then we're going to use the IP address for that particular machine that we just created the server on. We're going to specify the port, which mine was 54322. And then you're going to use the -I option. This will allow you to get to the directory. So at this point we want to specify the key. The way I like to do this is I just find the directory, I'll hit copy, and I'll just copy it. Then I have it there, and then just to make sure there's no typos or anything like that, I'll just go to the one that we just created. This one. Let's take a back step. I almost did the same thing that I ran into last time. I already explained the first half of it, and then I totally forgot about the second half of what I was trying to say earlier. We already saved this public key, but these are in different formats. So if we were to run into this, if we were to run this, we're going to get this. Well, obviously we get permission denied, and it's because of the invalid format when it loads this key. So all we got to do, simple enough. We're going to open up the key generator, conversions. We're going to go ahead and export Open Ssh Key. Make sure you want it, yes. And then we're just going to save it as YouTube pub right like that. We're going to save over it. And it should work. There we go. Now we're in, baby. I am Jack. And one more way before we go ahead and close this video out, I just want to show you Putty real quick. It's also very simple. I like the way PowerShell looks, and it's very convenient. You could also run a script allowing you to just boot it right off the desktop or whatever you want to do. But you could also use Putty. So go ahead and boot this up real quick. So this is what the Putty, the regular client will look like. I already saved a profile. You go ahead and do the same. Just enter the details and just click save at the bottom by naming it right there. So we're just gonna load that. So up at the top you can see the IP address. You see the port. We got SSH. That's what I named it as. The only other one you want to go to is down here. I mean, there's a lot of other things obviously you can play around in here, but the only one that we really care about for right now is on the connection, SSH, authentication, and then right here, private key file for authentication. So go to browse, put the one we just did with the .ppk, and then all we gotta do is just click open. It's gonna ask for Jack, authenticating with public key. That's it. Now we're in. I am Jack. Alright, so that's gonna close out the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. I learned a lot doing this lab. I've done SSH before. I've used Putty for years. I've never used strictly key authentication. I never really played with keys as much. It's actually pretty straightforward once I figured out the different formats. It forced me to read the different stuff, like read into it and see, okay, this format is this format is this is why it's not working. I suggest you do the same. Just get in there, learn. That's what this is all about. Just learn. And as always, guys, as I say every video, or as I continue to say in every discussion that I create on my website, never stop learning.